Your tormentors are now under national investigation, and you never even touched them. Let that reality sink in slowly, while you remain composed, choosing restraint over reaction. Something far greater was unfolding beyond your sight. Files were opening without announcement. Conversations were shifting in rooms you have never stepped into, and you did nothing except stand still. They believed pressure would fracture you. They assumed silence meant surrender. But you chose distance. You chose control. You refused to descend into the chaos they tried to pull you toward. And when you refused to engage, something unexpected began to happen. Gravity shifted. Now the very hands that tried to corner you were being examined. The same voices that whispered in shadows are being traced. Patterns once used against you are being reviewed from a higher level. Not because you retaliated, not because you exposed them, but because distortion eventually collapses under its own weight. You never shouted. You never threatened. You never touched them. This is not revenge. This is consequence aligning with truth. So stay grounded in this realization. What is happening right now is not random, and it is not luck. It is the silent force of someone who understands timing. You were assessed too quickly and defined too narrowly. They reduced you to labels that made them comfortable. Quiet became timid in their narrative. Patience became incompetent. Composure became incapacity. They studied your stillness and decided it meant you lacked edge. So they tested you. They excluded you from circles. They spoke over you in rooms where you had already measured everyone present. They mistook your refusal to perform for an absence of ability. What they never admitted, even to themselves, was that your centered nature unsettled them. They could not provoke you, so they tried to diminish you. And when you did not react the way they expected, confusion turned into subtle hostility. Betrayal followed restraint because your steadiness exposed instability in others. When you refused to compete in their noise, it reflected their insecurity back at them. Every sideways comment, every dismissal, every attempt to corner you was not proof of your limitation, but confirmation of your depth. Misunderstanding was not a flaw in you, it was evidence that your layers were beyond their reach. Your quiet presence disrupted fragile confidence. Your measured responses challenged inflated identities. They felt it, even if they never said it aloud. That is why they tried to frame you as smaller than you were. That is why they attempted to isolate you, because something about you suggested control without display, strength without announcement. And every effort to contain you only revealed who felt threatened by what you carried naturally. There were observers, though no one introduced themselves as such. No formal declaration, no open rivalry, just glances held a second too long and conversations that lowered in volume when you entered. Analysis happened in corners. Conclusions were drawn without your participation. Certain individuals tracked your responses, searching for weaknesses, mapping your habits, measuring your tolerance. Their approach was never direct. It arrived disguised as curiosity, as friendliness, as casual inquiry. Beneath polite expressions lived comparison. Beneath compliments lived calculation. They believed they were gathering leverage, positioning themselves for advantage, circling patiently. Subtle influence attempts repeated over time, gentle nudges meant to steer your decisions, quiet provocations designed to trigger emotion. Yet you remained composed, offering little for them to grasp. What they did not realize was that their own behavior left traces. In attempting to outmaneuver you, they revealed patterns in themselves. Each strategic grin concealed tension. Each whisper carried intention. While they believed they were stalking opportunity, they were documenting their own motives. You did not counterattack. You did not confront. You simply maintained alignment. And somehow, mechanisms beyond your direct involvement began to respond. Structures adjusted. Attention redirected. Outcomes started forming without dramatic scenes. Accountability gathered momentum without spectacle. Those who assumed they were unseen became visible through their own excess. There came a turning point that did not announce itself with drama. It arrived quietly, almost imperceptibly, when intensity no longer controlled your decisions. What once stirred immediate response began to slow, then settle. Emotion did not disappear. It refined. Heat transformed into discernment. Instead of reacting on impulse, you started noticing details. Tones beneath statement, intentions beneath gestures, patterns beneath repetition. You spoke less, not from hesitation, but from precision. Each sentence carried weight because it was chosen, not spilled. Limits became defined without apology. Access required alignment. What once felt personal began to look predictable. Distance replaced entanglement. And with that distance came perspective. Internally, something shifted that no one else could see. The performance ended, though the exterior remained composed. You no longer felt compelled to justify your choices. You no longer chased understanding from those committed to misunderstand. Defending yourself lost its appeal because clarity made validation unnecessary. The need to convince dissolved. In its place grew awareness that extended beyond surface interactions. You began recognizing cycles before they completed, sensing motives before they unfolded. Restraint turned deliberate. Quiet became calculated. Presence sharpened. As perception expanded, confusion diminished. What once overwhelmed you now appeared structured and transparent. And in that expanded awareness, you found steadiness that could not be shaken by noise or pressure. Something altered in the atmosphere, and it did not require announcement. When you step into a space now, the air tightens almost imperceptibly. Dialogue adjusts its rhythm. Expressions recalibrate. It is subtle, yet undeniable. You no longer seek attention, yet attention reorganizes around you. Their usual tactics lose precision. Remarks that once carried sting fall flat before reaching you. The dynamic has inverted without confrontation. Your composure carries density. Your presence introduces weight. You do not dominate through volume. You influence through steadiness. And that steadiness creates an unspoken awareness in others that something has changed. Inconsistencies surface. Sequences of behavior attract scrutiny. What they once directed outward begins circling back inward. You remain composed, neither celebrating nor interfering. Yet frameworks adjust as if responding to an unseen law. Influence no longer resembles spectacle or aggression. It resembles inevitability. There is a quiet authority in simply being unmoved. While they scramble to regain footing, you conserve energy. While they attempt to reinterpret the narrative, the environment reshapes it for them. What once appeared dominant now looks fragile under examination. What once seemed assertive now appears reactive. And through it all, you stand centered, unchanged in posture, yet transformed in impact. As circumstances align without your intervention and the balance tilts in your favor with calm certainty, recognition no longer fuels you. Praise sounds distant, almost hollow, as if it belongs to another life. You do not measure progress through external reaction anymore. What once felt necessary now feels trivial. Admiration carries no authority over your direction. Criticism holds no command over your pace. You have withdrawn your dependence on response, and in doing so, reclaimed something far more stable. Your focus turns inward, not out of isolation, but intention. You refine quietly. You build without announcement. You adjust without seeking witness. The urge to display growth fades because growth itself becomes the priority. Emotion no longer dictates movement. Restraint guides decision. Calculation replaces impulse. You do not pursue resolution through confrontation, nor do you seek satisfaction through argument. You understand that not every tension requires engagement. Not every misunderstanding requires correction. Time reveals what effort cannot. You conserve energy for construction rather than reaction. Improvement becomes internal, shielded from unnecessary exposure. This stage is not dramatic, yet it is decisive. You are no longer proving capacity. You are cultivating it. The journey turns private, shielded from noise, anchored in discipline. And within that quiet refinement, you recognize a strength that does not depend on applause, does not shrink under indifference, and does not rush toward outcomes. Your awareness has reached a level where little escapes your notice. You register shifts in tone, subtle inconsistencies, unspoken tension beneath surface words. While others rush to fill space, you conserve it. You listen longer than you speak. You measure before you move. Every interaction becomes data. Every repetition a clue. Instead of responding immediately, you trace sequences. You connect fragments. You recognize cycles before they repeat. This is not detachment, it is precision. You have learned that reaction exposes position, while observation reveals leverage. So you remain composed, allowing others to reveal themselves through habit and rhythm. Clarity becomes your advantage. applied without display, carried without threat. Your progress does not announce itself, yet it compounds with remarkable speed. You advance without spectacle, building strength beneath the surface. Reliance on others has faded. Your footing no longer depends on shifting ground. Autonomy has solidified into certainty. Those who once misjudged you attempt to interpret your trajectory, but they lack the framework to understand it. Your direction does not follow predictable lines. It expands beyond their assumptions. What appears subtle to them is deliberate to you. What appears distant to them is strategic to you. They search for familiar cues, yet you operate on a level they cannot categorize. And while they attempt to analyze, you continue forward, composed and self-directed, increasing capacity without noise, refining influence without announcement, and advancing in ways that remain inaccessible to those confined by limited perception. There is a moment when everything settles into certainty. Not loud, not dramatic, just undeniable. Those who once attempted to undermine you now confront the consequences of their own design. Not because you pursued retaliation, not because you orchestrated exposure, but because distortion cannot sustain itself indefinitely. When imbalance stretches too far, it corrects. When deception layers too thickly, it fractures. You did not interfere. You did not chase vindication. You remained steady, and steadiness proved stronger than aggression. While they maneuvered in secrecy, their own excess accumulated weight, and weight eventually demands reckoning. What unfolds around them now is not your doing. It is inevitability asserting itself through structure and sequence. Throughout it all, you remained intact, untouched by their attempts, unmoved by their projections, untraceable in your composure. You were never the chaos they tried to assign to you. You were the force that exposes chaos without lifting a hand. Like a storm that does not announce its arrival yet reshapes the landscape. Like gravity that does not argue yet governs all motion. Like a signal that cannot be distorted by outside interference. You exist beyond manipulation. This was never about becoming something new. It was about remembering something ancient within you. You are not stepping into strength for the first time. You are recognizing the authority that has always been present. You are not becoming powerful. You are remembering what you always were.